And the last one for today, for this week's set of 10, this is number 3, is this wonderful journal. I did use a vintage book on this one from the 60s, but it was extremely boring, so I covered the whole thing with this 1920s music sheet that was in actually pretty good condition, because music sheets don't often stand the test of time. And this one was called, let me take these tags out, Sweet Memories. I mean, what is better for a journal than Sweet Memories? My goodness, I was very excited. So this is actually a page from also from the music sheet here, and I just added some lace to the top and the bottom, and I made these vintage tags to tuck in here, also made out of antique paper and internal spines. Look at this fun one. It's the mustache page from a dictionary, and then I found this little picture from a French almanac, a fellow with a mustache. I thought that was hilarious. So let's take a look. This was actually a library book, and so I've kept the original library card in there. It was last taken out in '86, but it's much older than that, the book. And there's a 1950s stamp collector's page and vintage doily, a vintage gardening book page, and a children's book page here. Wonderful story. Look at this one, Henry the Helicopter. Now this belly band here I made out of the internal signature spine of an antique book, and I just love the textures on these, the netting and the glue that remained. And I included in this one this vintage hanky, and it is old, but it was never used. It came to me in its original packaging, so it had never been purchased from the store. And there's a little vintage canasta sheet, so you can journal on the back of that. And I made that pocket out of that vintage doily there. And just a very old book page here. You can't do too much with it because it is so thin and brittle, but it's so pretty. More tea-dyed pages are the only things in my books that aren't authentic antique and vintage ephemera. Look at this wonderful 1928 Billboard magazine page, and it's just got the best advertisements because, I mean, it was vaudeville and theater and live musicians, and so the advertisements are just to die for. This is a wonderful image from that book page, The Joyous Travelers, and this is just on a removable paper clip here, and I've tucked in this 1899 newspaper article, and I attached it to some sticker sheets because it was so brittle. Even just putting it in here would crack it in half. So you can journal on the back of that. Isn't that fun? And that's from an engineering school book about slide ledgers. Slide rulers, sorry. Ledgers on the mind. And oh my gosh, look at this from a vintage bird book. I only had about 12 of these, so this week's each book has one of these. I'm really excited. And you can see the beautiful aging around the edges on that vintage page, but to have it on glossy vintage is really special. And there is that French Paris almanac page here from January, double-sided. And I put this little pocket here out of the vintage school French book, school book for French language, learning French language, which we had to do in Canada. And there's one of those wonderful Watchman's clock dials, very, very old. And this is the little girl who has did all these albums that I acquired. And I'm still trying to find her name, but I know her sister's name and her dad's name, but she always just called herself Me. So I am working on that. But that's from the 30s. Pretty little girl. She sure worked hard on these albums. Okay, so this is a 1950s magazine page with just the most wonderful images and fashion on there. Double-sided. You're going to really enjoy that. And again, you're just going to see so many wonderful little clusters and bits of antique ephemera all over the place. 1950s bingo card, and just a tag that I made for you to journal on out of a vintage dictionary page, and that is a vintage needlepoint. Let's call it needlepoint. More history book pages here, vintage sewing instructions, and this is from the 1955 Polish book on Polish embroidery, which is some of the most beautiful embroidery in the world. These are, look at those collars. Oh my gosh, they're so pretty. They're so pretty. And this one very luckily has images on both sides, so that's nice. More of that history book. a vintage playing card with the royal crown, and just another journaling spot there out of an antique book page, and some lovely children's book images here. And that's from, I think that's from Freckles. Yeah, 1904 Freckles page, and an old ledger page. This one was actually blank. That's from the 20s with the hand-stamped corners, which I love. Another vintage playing card, and this lucky person gets the Joker, which, of course, this deck only had the one, so I think it's the best one. So yay you if you get this journal. And here's just another little French book page, vintage book page that I turned into a journaling spot. Kind of pretty. Another vintage stamp down here, and all kinds of interesting bits of scrap there. And this came from the 1890s Demarest magazine, and this one is quite special because it's flowers. Most of them I have are fashion, but this one here has some lovely flowers and things that you can make and gift. Isn't that pretty? Which is kind of special for the 1800s, I'll say. Anything is special from the 1800s. An old 1939 ledger page scrap here on another journaling tag. And, oh, we're still going here. This is Niagara Falls. That's the gorge at Niagara Falls. So the walls would be just up the river there. And this little guy's from 1948 with a wonderful message on the back. And here is just a little journaling spot. I just liked this image, and it had too much text on the other side to do anything with, so I just put a little bit of handmade paper in there. You can paint on there or do some writing on there as well. There's another one of these wonderful accounting ledger pages from 1931. And their Little Girl Don't Cry song sheet here. Oh, look at this wonderful children's book page. I'm glad. The little poem there. Oh my gosh, it's so pretty. And some child did some pencil marks. I could have erased it, and I can if you would prefer I do. Just message me when you purchase it, but I leave them because I think they're endearing. I made this little booklet here again. This little person wrote on the inside of this book page, so I kept that. And just lots of little places to journal in there. And that brings us to the end. So I hope you like it. It's on Etsy now. And you can visit etsy.com/shop/hyperstamper. And don't forget to subscribe so you can be the first to purchase, because each one is one of a kind. And I'll see you soon. Bye for now.